Hey everybody, welcome to That's Life with Pablo and Phoenix. Today's episode on November 8th, 2025. Today we're going to be talking about aviation safety in light of the UPS plane crash that happened a few days ago. So for those who don't know, a aircraft went down in Louisville, Kentucky. Pretty awesome videos that came out with it. I mean, awesome in a great sense. But anyway, I'm going to pass along to Phoenix here to explain what happened.
All right. Well, there's not much to explain other than I would say this accident is one of the most straightforward accidents. There's pretty much no question what happened to the airplane. It's why it happened.
Mhm. Right.
So basically, an MD-11 on a takeoff roll lost an engine, and when that engine came off, unfortunately, at the timing that the engine came off, it was a very critical phase of flight, which is getting off the runway.
Hmm.
The aircraft was able to get off the runway due to ground effect, which many people in aviation are aware of. But unfortunately, it seems like the number two engine suffered some form of compressor stall or fire itself at a very critical time, or at that critical time, and it wasn't able to rise off the ground very much. The aircraft kind of scraped the top of a building, crashed into some power poles, and some kind of a looked like it crashed into some form of a gas refinery or oil refinery place, and basically smoked the ground in quite a fireball. And I think they were saying it was around a half a mile to a mile in size. The crash, what's the word I'm looking for there? When there's a crash, the amount of damage is doing on the ground, the crash site, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a large area from what we've seen. Yeah, it was truly an awesome sight. Just seeing some of the videos that some people were captured, that is some horrifying stuff to witness. Like that was a crazy crash. Oh, we've seen other crazy crash obviously in history, but man, that was some hell of a crash. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families of the victims, all the victims that were involved in that incident or that accident, I should say. So the aircraft in question, Phoenix, the MD-11, you and I agree, that's a pretty good airplane. It's long served its time as a passenger aircraft, is now strictly a cargo aircraft. Pretty decent track record though. It just at this point in time though, they're all getting pretty old, the ones that are still remaining.
well, as for crash record, I wouldn't say it's pretty decent. I don't know what it is because I was actually talking to either Hardeep, he's another one of our friends, or somebody else. I can't remember. Maybe Chris. One of those guys. You guys don't know who they are, but we do. They're pretty cool. And I was joking with him saying that it seems like back in like the 90s when the plane first came out, the airlines that operated them did a great job flying them, but I don't know if just the quality of um, maybe certain flight crews, because there's actually been quite a few bad landings resulting in accidents with the MD-11. That tends to be the plane's bigger problem. I can
Mm.
think of at least three or four in the last 20 years where the plane just it has an issue where if you don't land it right, it can bounce and cartwheel. And I just find it interesting because like there's some airlines that had flawless careers with them. I don't think there was any major issues that I can think of with American MD-11s before everybody freaks. MD-11, PC-10, and KLM. I had them as well, and I don't believe there was any major incidents with a
Yeah, no,
KLM
you're
MD-11.
right.
But FedEx has not had a very good track record, and I'm just saying they've been picked on quite a bit, but to me, they've been picked on more for their handling characteristics. But I mean, why didn't pilots have an issue when they first came out? Why did they start having them now? Like, as in, I mean, within the last half of their lives. Like, if a
Yeah.
plane's uncontrollable when it touches down or not easy to control, then it would have always been there. It's not going to just, plane's 20 years old now, so now you can't control it when it lands.
Well, yeah, I don't think it's a an issue of controllability as it ages. I think as it ages, parts start to wear, structure starts to weaken. I'm just saying, talking more in those terms, and that's probably could have what led to this happen. We don't know. It's still so early to tell.
Yeah.
But I always felt that the aircraft had like a decent. Of course, no, yes, there have been accidents. Yes, there have been fatalities. The one that really comes to mind for me is Swiss Air 111, an MD-11 that crashed off of Peggy's Cove in Canada. That one was probably the worst MD-11 accident I've seen. It just nose darted into the ocean with was a smoke in the cockpit. Yeah, that was a pretty horrifying crash. But Other ones like the Mandarin MD-11 that crashed because, well, you try to land in a hurricane or a typhoon, and with a plane with bad characteristics like that, yeah, you're probably likely going to crash. And I don't know, but the I do see what you're saying with the aircraft that tend to, I guess, barrel roll or whatever. Remember that FedEx one that crashed? That was just a
There was a
weird.
few of them. That's the thing.
Yeah,
There was a
those
few
are
of those
crazy.
accidents. Yeah, there was a few of those. But yeah, either way, the point is, yeah, you're right. It didn't have a terrible record like the DC-10. It's actually funny you brought that up because so many people started comparing it to the American 191 accident with the DC-10, which was like a really bad accident, one of the biggest ones for a single airliner in the States for a while.
Absolutely.
But yeah, when that engine ripped off, it was a different story. It ripped hydraulic lines out of the wing, which created a retraction of the slats and flaps. So not only did you lose an engine, you now lost the assistance of climbing out with the aircraft. And yeah, so it's not the same story in this one though. But with that said,
Mhm.
though, I do want to make a note that because you're on your computer, I don't know if you have the ability to see the videos, but I'm very interested to see how the like in one of the videos, it almost looks like the flaps and slats aren't as extended on the wing of this MD-11, which is eerie because it's not supposed to be able to do that. I think what I heard was they put a mechanism in, a locking mechanism in that if the hydraulic failure happens, then it can't close, like a redundancy there. But when I
Okay.
watched the one video clip, the one where it's like a front view, it almost looks like the flaps and slats are retracted. So I'm like looking at it right now, and I think they are. I think the fire is getting in the way, but it just looks so different. That's all.
Yeah. I think what really, I have to say, what really made this aircraft go down is the fact that they lost number one engine. They likely lost number two engine, or the engine number two engine wasn't producing the thrust because it was stalling. So, and you have all this weight, all this fuel, all that parcels on board for a flight to Honolulu. You just didn't have enough inertia to get that plane really climbing. Yes, they went at, they lift off at 180 knots, which should be more than enough, but you quickly bleed that airspeed when you get off the ground. Um, they probably were just skimming the top, and they just eventually too much weight, not enough, too much weight, not enough airspeed, and you're gonna just crash into the ground. And I just think it was the just nothing was going wrong for that crew or right for that crew. You lost engine, you lost two engines essentially,
Well,
and with full weight like that, I just don't think they had a chance.
no, for sure. While I'm watching this video, the plane can take off with two engines, right? But as I'm just watching this video clip right now back and forth, and I think what's really unfortunate, I think what the worst part of this is that
Yes.
second engine, I think it's engine two on the MD-11. I'm pretty sure it's
Hmm.
engine two.
Yeah.
Because that engine failed, that's why it falls. Like the plane
Yeah.
gets off
It
the
does.
ground,
It
but
does.
as it's getting off the ground, you can see the compressor stalls now from engine two,
That's right. Yep.
and then it drops. And as I'm looking at the video, I've got it up in front of me right now. You can see that they've gunned the engine number three. So
Yes.
engine number three is producing so much thrust, it is just smoking. Like it's like so I can't tell if it's fuel or, but it looks like it's actually just jet blast, like thrust coming out of that last the last engine that they had. And I kind of was talking to my buddies. I'm like, they probably did not even know the wing was on fire. They just got an engine indication for a fire, and they're like, "All right, here we go. We're going to put our training into play, and we're going to take off with two engines." And now all of a sudden, you've got your second engine failing, right, while you're
Yeah.
basically in ground effect, and now you're just gunning that last engine. Like, I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. I
you
can't
can
disagree.
see in the clip here that I'm looking at that one engine is pulling that side of the plane up. Like those
Yeah.
pilots probably were the best possible pilots you could have trying to operate that. You know, like
Yeah.
they didn't have a very good They didn't have a very good outcome, but they couldn't. I don't think they could have improved it.
No, they couldn't have. I
It-
think they were doomed. I
so-
think, yeah, as soon as, like, you see that the left wing hits a building, and that basically that kills it.
well, yeah,
It strikes something, and then it just cartwheels, and
but
there's not really much you can do.
this is some more information though that I found out, just so you know, from the NTSB thing yesterday too. This you probably didn't know. They got the indication for a fire. I think it was 37 seconds into the takeoff roll.
Yeah, that's
So
significant. That's a lot of time.
yeah, like, well, what do you mean by a lot of time? It's they're rolling down the runway. They got that fire indication like literally after V1,
Yeah,
possibly
I mean, that's a
rotate.
lot of time. 37 seconds
Yeah,
into your takeoff roll is a long time. You're almost in the air at that point.
yeah. So here's the thing. Like the guy, like that was to answer anybody's question of why didn't they abort it. But one of the guys I watch, which is Blank Illyrio channel, Juan Brown, the guy is pretty awesome. Probably my favorite reviewer. He put a clip of a fully loaded MD-11 taking off a runway, and he had the countdown going for 37 seconds into the takeoff roll. And literally, like you could see the red lights are like right there for the end of the runway. So where he actually played the alarm, the sound of the fire alarm, at the point where the pilots would have seen it in his clip. It was very interesting for him to piece that together. And it's like, yeah, so you're already rotating. You like that, like I said, they would have had no idea the engine
Committed.
was on
Yeah,
fire. The other thing that I wanted to mention too, this is an interesting take as well. I do want to dig into those the funny things we were going to talk about with people talking about this. But I wanted to know your thought of what would happen had the plane actually been able to depart. That fire on the wing, would that aircraft have been able to continue if it didn't lose the second engine with a wing fire? I mean, I don't think either of us could know the answer to that, but the speculation would be, it's got a wing on fire. It's going to start burning the wing. I don't think that fire would have extinguished.
yeah.
So the question is,
I think
after
it would
that
have
plane
just,
takes off, it's got two engines now, so it can climb, but now it's got a wing on fire. And we're
yeah,
not talking a Cessna, we're talking an MD-11 that's now got to try to circle with a burning wing,
yeah,
right? Like, it's already compromised too. It's already got a
yeah,
rip out of it, I'm assuming.
yeah.
So,
I think that is definitely going to be left up to speculation. I think, of course, it's possible to land that airplane. You come around, but they were full of fuel. That's the thing. There are procedures when you have a fully loaded airplane. You're supposed to dump fuel. I don't think in that situation that's even possible.
no, they wouldn't have. They wouldn't
And
have been able to dump fuel. They
you
would have
wouldn't
had
be
to
able
try landing
to.
it.
You'd have to try landing it, but you're landing a giant bomb. And at that point in time, we don't know what the outcome would have been. Now, I would have taken that over what actually happened. I would have taken at least a shot at trying to save my life.
Yeah, they would have. I guess my concern would have been what if it went down like in an actual much more populated
Well, that's
area.
the thing. Like 13 people died, as far as we know. 13 people
Oh, it's
died.
four. I think it was 14 now, but
Okay, so
and
14
there's still
people
a
died.
bunch missing. Like not a bunch, but an amount missing. But anyways, got the point.
But
13, 14.
had this crashed anywhere else, like in a highly populated neighborhood, yeah, that death toll would have been a lot. Like we're talking a mile long stretch of burning gas. Yeah, that would have killed a lot more people. So in a way, you know, if you're trying to take the positives of this, it happened in a place that had the least amount of people, or so they say. But we will never know. We will never know. They could have maybe have saved the airplane. We don't know. There's just a lot of combinations that we can think about when it comes to this accident. But like our episode today is not just the UPS plane crash. Like that's what sparked this topic. But I've been noticing people are questioning aviation safety. They are questioning whether it's still safe to fly in airplanes. And I have to remind people, as an aviation professional myself, I work in aircraft maintenance. I know the rigors that have to go through to make sure planes are safe. I think that aviation is extremely safe. I think I would never question getting on an airplane. And I know the bad things have happened. We've seen some pretty bad accidents happen in the last few years. But if you think about how many airplanes fly every single day, how every single hour, I still like my chances. I like my chances over getting into a car. I mean,
I thought you were gonna say more. I thought you
yeah.
were gonna say more to that. I'm
So what do
sorry.
you?
I definitely agree. Um, I mean, there's been some questions about specific aircraft models, but I agree. It is definitely. There's no question that it's safer than getting into a car. I think the problem nowadays is that the whole world knows everything when it happens. And back in the old days, you might read about it in the newspaper, and then maybe it would make it onto the 11 o'clock news if they had were able to put it in there. But
Yeah.
here's the thing: now you've got instant news. Like on Twitter or sorry, it's X. I should say X now, but yeah, on X, you're gonna know there's an accident before you see it on the news at night, and then you're gonna see it on the news, and now all the news stations are trying to compete with the other, Twitters and other social media outlets. And you basically see everything. And the
Mhm.
news
Yeah.
knows, right? The news knows that, hey, because there's one accident with a plane on the other side of the world, let's report every other airplane crash because we know people operate on fear. So when one plane goes down, because everybody's already like, this is like the worst year for aviation because an Air India plane crashed in a very similar fashion. Not the same reason, but a similar fashion. Crashed and
Yeah.
blew up at the end of a runway. My God, this is the worst year for aviation because planes are crashing at the end of the runway. And somehow, even the Air India one, by the way, was Donald Trump's fault. The United States shutdown, I think. So everybody's blaming it on that. But the point is,
Correct. That's crazy.
every time there's an accident now, you have to hear about it. And whether you want to or not, and they know how to do it. And then they always ask the same question. Oh, is it safe? Because there was two airplane crashes this year instead of like one, or was there three this year? Right. And now they're starting to mix in even like the reports of the small planes. So now people are seeing a lot more small plane crashes. And I actually like watching them. They're like these guys, like these influencers that talk about small plane crashes. I actually like it. And I'm calling them influencers. I shouldn't be calling them that. They're influencers are like those people who are like, oh, you should do this with your life. But they're just people that are just regular everyday people. They may be pilots, they might be, whatever, but they want to do their own opinion on every accident that happens. But here's the thing, you see these now in between the big plane crashes, and you just assume that it's terrible to fly these days because you're going to get into an accident when in reality you're just seeing a lot more because you can, and things go onto your feed. As soon as you watch the UPS crash, now you're going to get other plane crashes on your feed because you're going to be
Yeah.
like, oh, this guy was looking into the UPS plane crash, and you're like, yeah, okay, now you're going to get more stuff onto your feed. So no, I don't even think the plane crashes are that more are not they're not that much more in comparison or relation to the way they were. It's just there's more flights, there's more airplanes flying around. So you're going to have more accidents. But when you think about it, the only ones on the top of my head that were major this year that I'm thinking of right now, and I'm a fan of like learning about plane crashes. I'm not a fan of the plane crash, but is I can think of UPS, I can think of Air India, but I mean, off the top of my head now, I can't think of any other ones. I know there were, but I've only got UPS in my head and Air India for this year so far as big plane crashes.
Yeah. I say 2025. You're correct. I think 2024. I think the Jeju Air 737. That was right at the end of 2024.
Oh no, I think that was. Oh yeah, sorry, I did forget. But now you did remind me. There was Jeju, and then there was the RJ in Toronto. How did I forget that?
Oh, the RJ. Yes, the RJ in
and
Toronto. That was a big one.
and the one that crashed in.
The collision over the river, the Potomac.
That's what I'm saying. But here's my point. You see what I mean? You're flooded with so much crap.
Yes.
Like I've been looking at so many little plane crashes and so many other things that, and also the videos too, right? Like when you watch that MD-11 crash from all those different angles, it looks like a movie.
It does.
So I'm saying back in the old days, you'd hear about a plane crash, you'd see the wreckage after it's probably done burning, right?
Yeah.
Like you look at like the one that pops in my head is the MD-11 of Northwest Airlines that crashed in Detroit. All you see on the news, you do see a fire, but there's nobody's got the 50 angles or whatever of a plane hitting poles and crashing. So it's also a lot more in your face now when you see a plane crash. So it kind of scares people. But back, this is just the scare part. But I'm saying overall, I like, I don't think the quality per se is that much worse. But I mean, something that I might say, which is weird, is like anything else these days, the quality of newer aircraft, right? They're not built the same way they used to be. I'm not saying they're not built good, but I'm saying you buy a new car compared to an older car, it's not built very well. They're not built to last. Like Airbuses, for example. Airbuses have always been notorious. They're not going to last as long as heavy metal planes that were built in the 60s. And I can say the same for 787s now and stuff like that. So the quality has gone down a little bit, but I don't know. You would know maybe a little bit more than me. Well, actually, probably a lot more than me. The quality of aircraft that are out now compared to what they were in the old days. Now you've seen a lot of new planes, but you know, do you notice anything weird at all? Like, do you notice anything that seems out of place, or does everything seem pretty?
I think aviation actually got safer. I think the quality I think the quality is actually better too. We're using better products, we're using better materials. This is the thing, we're not cheaping out on safety when it comes to aviation. We're not. The aircraft are way more safer today than they were even 20 years ago. They have systems on board the aircraft that really take a lot of the workload off a pilot. So in an emergency situation, the pilot can land the airplane, can like actually focus on flying the airplane. And a lot of this has happened because of learning from past events, past accidents. I don't think quality has gone down in the aircraft. I think they're looking for cheaper methods of building aircraft, using more composites as opposed to steel, making aircraft more lightweight, which saves on fuel because all green initiatives are out there, but the aircraft go through rigorous testing when they're being developed. So it has to pass a very stringent standard to meet certification. Now, of course, there's the outliers. Like there was that scandal with Boeing and the 737 Max program. We all know how that went. We actually don't actually really know what happened there. I think a lot of stuff got pushed under the rug, in my opinion. But there was a serious issue with that aircraft. It was apparently ignored by high up executives, and then the FAA now had to really scrutinize them and say, hey, you better make sure this is perfect. And I think Boeing did the due diligence. They made the aircraft very safe now. I wouldn't have a problem getting on a Max. I think they resolved the issue that was causing the two aircraft that crashed. And actually, a lot of other aircraft were having that problem. It's just the pilots were, I guess, better trained to deal with the situation. But yeah, I don't know. In answer to your question, Phoenix, I think the aircraft haven't gotten worse. I think they've gotten better. I think quality is actually improved. Now, other things like interiors, like things that don't matter to the airworthiness of an airplane, maybe that they cheap out on that. But as far as the actual bare bones in the engines, I think that it's gotten better.
Wow,
So,
that's good.
yeah.
I guess that's a good thing. I mean, I'm not in that. I'm not in that portion of the industry to know anymore. But yeah, that's good then. That's a good thing. I just question it because you see how crappy cars are made. You pay more for cars now, and they're generally trash. But it's good to know that. So there you go. So for anybody who's afraid of the quality of planes, Pablo here thinks that they're actually being built better, which is good. That's a good thing for comfort. But then we get into some of the other things that are in the news these days. Apparently, the MD-11 of UPS that the engine fell off is Donald Trump and the U.S. government's fault because of a shutdown that they're having right now. I don't know a whole lot about the shutdown. I just know that for some reason, when there's a government shutdown, um, people aren't getting paid, which I think is the strangest thing. So everything else works, but no money is going to people. I don't really grasp
I
that
think that's
concept.
weird
But
too.
what I think is a bigger concern that I would have is the air traffic controllers. And I don't think an air traffic controller would ever do anything. By the way, I don't think an air traffic controller would ever do anything devious per se. But what I will say is, I think a concern that is a valid concern these days, and I will not tread. I don't even know. I'm trying to look at cool sayings. It's the podcast. I'm trying to think of cool sayings. I'm not even going to pretend that it's not an issue. I think it's a huge issue right now. that the air traffic controllers are not necessarily facing stress with airplanes. They're facing stress with not getting paid. They have bills they got to pay. They have lives. And I think that that might be an actual concern. And apparently, Canada's having that issue too, slightly, not like the States. Apparently, Canada just has an air traffic controller shortage. I could definitely lay into that one, but I won't get into that one right now. But
Yeah.
I don't know what your thought is, but I'm actually very I'm a little bit more concerned about there being some form of an incident in the States just because of how stressed out people who aren't getting paid are that are doing a stressful job. Like I know pilots, there's some pilots and airlines are actually sending food to air traffic controllers at work to show their support. And, you know, it's not good for an airline when it's not good for an airline when they can't depart their planes either. So of course, you know, feed the air traffic controllers. It's dropping the bucket, I
Yeah.
think, overall for them.
Absolutely. And you know what? Maybe airlines should get together and step up here and throw a couple bucks their way, because like
Uh,
without
they might have.
with
I don't know.
they might. Well, yeah, we don't actually know what's going on in that situation, but I think as far as the stress involved, like the air traffic control is a very stressful job. It's not an easy job. I don't think I could do it. And yeah, to have that added element of stress of, oh my God, am I going to pay my bills on time? Am I going to pay my mortgage on time? Yeah, that would not be fun to deal with. I also believe though, air traffic controllers, they're professionals. They come to work and they know the gravity of their job. Like going to work knowing that you got to be at your best. Because if you don't, you're going to put a lot of people at risk. I think the worst thing for an air traffic controller is to have the death of many people on their conscience. I think when they show up to work, they clock in, they get ready. They're there and they're at their best. They're doing what they can to make the sky safe. No different than any other aspect of aviation. I think pilots and flight crew, maintenance, whatever people do in aviation, they know that mistakes comes with very big consequences. And that's why there's procedure. They stick to procedure and you have people support you. There's a lot of supports I know air traffic controllers have a lot of supports for mental health and things because you do need it. You do need it. This is not a joke. And yes, Donald Trump, and the government may have shut down the government and they're not getting paid. And that is something I still don't understand. They should get paid. That like a budget should be like made yearly. Hey, this is how much we're paying for air traffic controllers. This is how much we're paying for police. This is how much we're paying for fire, and you pay them accordingly. It should automatically be gone. There should already be budgeted money, and you pay the people until you resolve your issues. Why that doesn't happen in the States is beyond me, but no, we don't live in the United States, and maybe Americans listening could chime in on that and offer if they know any of the information about that. But yeah, I think yeah, stress you know, could be a factor. I don't think the skies are any less safe, and I'll tell you why. Aircraft now are required by law, especially commercial aviation, to have TCAS, TCAS 2 on board all aircraft. And TCAS is a very cool system. If you don't know what it is, like the people listening, TCAS is basically a transponder system that allows aircraft to communicate with each other and avoid collisions. So if an aircraft is on trajectory with another aircraft, the transponders on each airplane will talk to each other and say, hey, we're going to conflict. One's going to climb, one's going to descend. It automatically plans the resolution. It tells the pilots what to do. It'll tell the pilot to climb or descend to avoid the collision. Furthermore to that, if air traffic control says to do the opposite of TCAS, the pilot is instructed to follow TCAS instructions over air traffic control as a measure of safety. That for me, like makes it pretty safe. Like to me, I'm like, okay, as long as if an air traffic controller screws up, TCAS is there as a very good standby to make sure that everything goes okay. And that's my
Yeah,
opinion on that.
yeah, and that's pretty cool. Now, the only thing I would say on that is that that there is an issue with TCAS. I mean, this is just I'm going down this hole because you brought it up. There is
Sure.
an issue with TCAS not working though as well under certain altitudes, and I believe it was around 200 feet, 200 or 300 feet. It doesn't work as well if it even works. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because that accident that did happen in Washington. The pilots did get a TCAS warning, but that warning was really not in a very timely fashion. I mean, I kind of giggled there, but
Hmm.
it was only because I was like thinking to myself, oh, well, it's a good thing you got the warning, but it really was not an effective warning. And when I was hearing about that, I had learned that to make things worse, because an aircraft is so close to the ground, TCAS doesn't warn them because there's going to be other aircraft sitting, say they're waiting to take off. Now, I think I've
Hmm.
heard there's like two stages. There's ones that'll just give you a little warning that there's planes around. I don't know if they ding, but I think my understanding is none of them do because they don't want it to freak out pilots while they're on final approach. That's for, again, that's not really the whole conversation tonight. Like TCAS does what it does well. We keep hearing now with issues in the United States, we do keep hearing that it is saving pilots. There's been a lot that have saved pilots in these cases, but overall, there is still an actual valid concern that two aircraft were able to hit each other because the plane did not get good enough notice. But anyway, I don't know what your thought is on that.
Well, my
It's a
thought on that,
reality that can
yeah,
happen.
yeah, no, and that was just like a lot of things had to go exactly right for that accident to happen. And
Yeah.
that's kind of like I've been told this analogy with aviation accidents. That aviation accidents is a bunch of slices of Swiss cheese. And Swiss cheese has a bunch of holes in it, right? But each Swiss cheese slice isn't the same. So if you get like 12 Swiss cheese slices ago, you have to have a hole that lines up in all of those slices together to make an accident happen. And that's the analogy I was told. So a lot of things have to line up perfectly for an aircraft accident to happen because of just how safe we make these things, right? In that case, in that American Airlines flight, and I believe it was American Airlines, they crashed into the helicopter crashed into them. A US Black Hawk helicopter crashed into the American CRJ. Helicopters don't like fly straight and level all the time. They're like always deviating, and TCAS is a matter of calculation. And if these pilots were just taking off, and they were just going, they weren't really established on a heading yet, the TCAS computers don't really see a conflict right away. Now that's just my opinion.
Oh,
This is
okay.
what
Well,
I'm
that okay. Maybe you don't know this with the helicopter. Just to help you out, the helicopter wasn't just taking off; it was flying. It was flying a, in
I
my
said
opinion,
heading.
no, it was flying a stupid route. So helicopters are allowed to fly at 200 feet, right along the edge of the airport, along the river. So it's a river thing. If you had a map, it'd make more sense. It's this
Oh, okay.
river route that they can take, and they're not supposed to go above 200, and they're actually permitted to go underneath, like basically across the flight path of aircraft coming in. So the problem is, had that plane actually been at the right altitude, the accident wouldn't have happened, or not the
Right.
plane, the helicopter was at the right altitude. But anyways, the point was it was actually flying. So the
Yeah.
aircraft
Okay.
did not get in time. I believe the only time they had was like 5 seconds. I think it was a 5 seconds TCAS warning. It was
Yeah.
that short. So they were basically turning. So they wouldn't have been able to see the helicopter because they were doing a left turn and the helicopter was on their right hand side approaching, right? But I think they got the TCAS warning. I think the pilots did pull up, but at that point it was too late. So
Too late. Yeah.
again, I went down like, I don't know if rabbit hole's the right word for this one, but I just went down a little path here because you had mentioned it. So yes, TCAS does make it safer. I just wanted to mention that yes, they do need to work on that. But anyways, but overall, I mean, I don't know what you hear. Like people always ask me actually questions at work, especially like the recent one was the whole air traffic control thing, and I was just honest with them. I said that yes, the air traffic controllers might be stressed. I do believe it's a higher risk. Do I think there's guaranteed to be an accident? I don't know if I'd use the term guaranteed, but
No.
it is
No. I
something
wouldn't
to,
either.
I do think it should be a valid concern. If
Yeah.
somebody is afraid of flying and is going to freak out, on a normal day, then yeah, it might be a little bit trickier in the States to fly.
Hmm.
But I mean, overall, I think fear of flying is, I don't even know. I don't know how you change people's minds on it.
It's
Flying is
very hard to
great.
change your minds. I think fear of flying. So, my ex-wife. My ex-wife has a huge fear of flying. And luckily, when we traveled together, she was traveling with me, someone who actually knows something about aviation. And I was explaining to her, listen, this is a very normal. These are all the noises you hear are normal. You're going to feel bumps. It's called turbulence. It's all good. The aircraft's designed to handle far worse stresses than this. Like, we're in great hands. Nothing I could say to her could ever make her feel comfortable flying on an airplane. I think most people who have the fear of flying just can't understand how something that weighs thousands of pounds can just lift off the ground. I think that's the biggest one, and we can tell them, like, we explain the theory of flight and everything to them. They still don't get it, and they don't trust it. They still don't trust it. And then, of course, anytime an accident happens, the media scrutiny that surrounds it, like, it's incredible because they don't just show the aircraft in pieces. They also show the aftermath of the families and everyone crying and all that stuff, right? So, like, the human element of an aviation disaster. And that scares people. People are like, wow, I don't want to lose my loved ones. I don't want my loved ones to lose me and more in me. But, like, you're more likely to die on your way to work than flying to anywhere in the United States. I fully believe on that. But yeah, that's the fear of flying is something I don't understand, but it's a bona fide fear. A lot of people in North America feel that. It's probably one of the top 10 for sure fears out there.
Yeah, and something that I always wonder is I wonder if it also stems from just the fear of having no control, because I think a lot of people fear not having control. And I feel like you don't have control obviously when you're in an airplane because you're not flying it generally. Um, unless you're the pilot, but if you're the pilot, I would hope you don't have a fear of flying. But I think there's kind of an aspect of you don't have control, and when there's a plane crash, it's a big deal. Like, I'm seeing videos of transport trucks smashing into cars and turning them into accordions and
Yeah.
lighting them on fire. And it's like, that's not a whole lot different than, crashing in a plane. And the other thing, too, is I would say, there's the rare plane crashes. And again, this is going to be kind of graphic. There's the rare plane crashes where unfortunately people are trapped and they burn to death. But that can happen to you in a car. Like, there was just a Tesla again the other day where there was an accident, people couldn't get out because Teslas have issues. But and that is true. Sorry, there is an issue with Teslas when there's a fire. You can't get windows or doors open because it's electronic. It's very weird, but it's an actual thing. But when it comes to plane crashes, a lot of them you're not even going to know what happened. And I mean, again, I don't mean to sound morbid, but you don't know. You know,
Absolutely.
like I would say in the case of, well, there's somewhere, I'm going to scare people now. There's somewhere you don't have oxygen. You're going to pass out before anything bad happens. You fell asleep, and if it was your time to go, you go. And to be honest
Yeah.
with you, I would rather that way than a freaking long struggle with cancer or something. But that's just my opinion.
Oh, I'd rather make it quick too. But, like,
But
s- yeah.
yeah,
I
somebody's got to take a little bit more interest. Like, I'm looking right now at Flight Radar 24, and there's, I don't know, probably at least, I don't even know how many planes are on here. 10,000
Wow.
planes. I don't know what the amount is. I thought it
Thousands
had a
in
number a
the air
while
at one
ago.
time.
What's that?
Yeah. There's thousands of planes in the air
Yeah,
worldwide at one time.
and you get one plane that gets taken down. But I think the
In
thing that's
6
weird about it
months.
is nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about that stat. Not nobody, but the people who don't want to fly, they don't care. But
Yeah.
you know what I think's also funny? I think a lot of people also joke about it because I don't think everybody's afraid or thinks it's unsafe, but I think people find that as a calming mechanism. Like, hey, I'm going on a plane, and if I die, haha, I was on a plane. Like, because a lot of people do that. Oh, I'm flying, and now people are like, oh, I hope I don't fly on an MD-11. It's like, well, don't worry, they're cargo. So unless you're a cargo pilot or crew, you're not going on it. Um, but that's what I kind of see more. Is I think people kind of joke more about it, like, oh crap, I don't want to go on a plane. I think it's more joking, but yes, there are people who do have this fear of flying, and it's better than it was. It definitely is better than it was in the old days, and well, I think it's better than it was in the old days. There were less planes, but I bet you if there was a bunch of 1960s planes flying around, like those prop planes that always crashed all the time, yeah, then maybe.
Oh yeah, there was definitely not like I said, we learned a lot from every accident that goes down. Like every plane that goes down, you have investigators to make sure it doesn't happen again, or try to at least mitigate the chance of it happening again. And
Yeah,
that's why you have investigations.
yeah, and the sad news too. It's kind of a probably an irony is that out of 14 people that have died in this recent plane crash, they weren't in the plane. Like,
I know. Yeah,
I mean,
people
I'm
on the ground.
again, it's not funny at all. It's just, it's ironic that
Ironic, yeah.
you're worried about going on a plane and but if you live by an airport there's a risk it could happen to you too, right? But every day you probably go outside and live your normal life. Well, if you take that the same way when you go on a plane, just live your life, go enjoy the plane. There's as good of a chance
Absolutely.
of you getting into a plane crash on the plane as maybe getting hit by one randomly one day.
Yeah. I think yeah, the whole thing with fear of flying, like there's fear of flying and there's people who hate flying. Hate flying is a completely different topic because flying isn't as fun as it used to be, that I can say. But when it comes to the safety aspect, like I said, I'll stand by what I said. I think aviation has never been any safer, like more safer. It is the safest it's ever been. Can there be improvements? Well, yeah, that's what the FAA, Transport Canada, EASA, like they're always looking at how to improve the aircraft because we're every year we're getting more and more aircraft in the skies. More people are traveling today than they did even 5 years ago. So it's an industry that the demand is just ever increasing. We're in a instant society, I'd like to say. Everything has to be done yesterday. So we want to be in Japan tomorrow or even today if we could. We want to be there as quickly as possible. We don't want to wait 3 or 4 days to get somewhere. We want it to be there today or the next day at most. And aviation is the best way to bridge that gap. It's the best way to get you from A to B as fast as possible. But yeah, the more demand there is, the more airplanes are in the skies, the more potential there is for something to happen. And that's just the way it is. Like the more cars that go on the road, the more chances you have of getting into an accident. It's just that's just the common sense of it all. I think aviation is super safe. I will stand by that. And if anyone has any questions about it, ask us away. Like, I think you and I, Phoenix, are very good at this. Like, we know a lot about aviation, and we're going to talk about. That's one thing we wanted to talk about today is the so-called aviation experts. I'm going to tell you right now, I am not an aviation expert by any means. I'm just an enthusiast. Phoenix, I'm pretty sure you fall in that category. We know a lot about aviation, but we are definitely not experts. But there are people out there that go on YouTube and they don't even fly airplanes, they don't work in industry, and they're so-called experts. And it's kind of comical. They'll say things that are absolutely wrong. What is your take on those people, Phoenix?
Well, it just depends. I like to hear different points of view, but I see some of them these days. So the things that get me right is I don't mind if somebody has their opinion, throw it out there because there's actually some interesting stuff that comes from that, right? But what I'll see, unfortunately, at times is, I saw one thing where somebody was like criticizing somebody else's idea because I think they're more popular. Like, well, this guy's this, and this, and it's like everybody has a right to an opinion, right? But if you're going to have a right to an opinion, you gotta at least know the basics. Like somebody going on, for instance, in this case, and comparing, you'll like I don't see this as much, right? But it does happen. People get on there and they compare a DC-10 to an MD-11. They're very similar, and one was built, as a predecessor, yeah, predecessor, I think, to
Yeah.
the other one. But it's like then they start comparing the two like they're the same thing. There'll be people that will post pictures of a DC-10 and call it an MD-11, right? If you can't make that distinction, then you shouldn't be talking about a plane crash. Like I'm sorry, like I am going to draw the line at you. You got to know the difference between a DC-10 and an MD-11. Yeah, it's not a lot, but don't talk about a plane crash if you don't know. But what I find really funny is when people go to a site where they know people or watch a video or go to a site where they know people are going to talk about a plane crash and offer their opinions, and then they just have to take the time to say, well, wait for the report. Wait for the report.
Yeah.
Like, yes, everybody should wait for the report. But if somebody wants to make a comment, even if it's dumb, right? And you don't want to see these comments because you want to wait for the damn report, don't go to the website. Like I would go to, I know it's not exactly what you were talking about, but I just wanted to mention this because you reminded me of this. I'd go to aviationherald.com,
Hmm.
and that site is the probably the one of the best sources for the majority of incidents that happen. Like we're talking just simple things, not like, yeah, if you want to be really freaked out about aviation, go there. Because there's a lot of things that happen every day. But the interesting part is they're not all crashes. So it actually goes to show how safe flying is, that things will happen and everybody's fine. But then there'll be a plane crash and people will go on there and they'll say their 2 cents. And then some guy will come on, oh, well, just wait for the report. And it's like, well, why are you reading the comment section? If you're waiting for the report, plane crashed, wait for a year and a half and then wait or 2 years and then get your report. But they go on here and then they troll people who make comments. Now, I agree. Some people make stupid comments. Some people make racist comments.
Yeah.
An Air India plane crash, so it must have been an Indian problem. No, not necessarily. But I'm saying when somebody goes on there and says, "It looked like the planes, both their engines went on fire," when they're saying only one did, and then somebody's like, "Just wait for the report." But anyways, these specialists that come on there, they make a ton of money because they get a lot of views. So there's Captain Steve. There's that I know of. There's Captain Steve, and Captain Steve is interesting. I think it's Captain Stevie or something like that. My issue with him is he really blurts out a lot of random crap at the beginning, and there's been a few instances where he's really far. And then he has to do a second video to go, oh, well, now that I got this information, it's like maybe he should just chill at the beginning. Like, that's my issue is chill. He's already like, I solved the plane crash with the 2 pieces of information I got. And then the next video is, well, now that I got this information, because I know specifically he solved Air India 777 accident or 787,
Yeah.
sorry. He solved it after one day, one afternoon. And then the next day, oh, well, now that I see that the rat came out, that changes everything. Well, then why did you say what you said? Just report it. So the guy, Blank O'Leary, Juan Brown, that I like, he literally
Yeah.
reports the accident. So he reported this, the recent one here. I'm going to use that example. He reported the MD-11 accident. That's all he did. An MD-11 crashed. Looks like there was an engine fire. Then, as he gets updates, he makes a new video and then explains it. And yes, his videos can get boring, even for me watching it because he does. But no, but it's sad because he has a lot of great information, and I do like his videos. And when he says something funny, like he doesn't mean to be funny, and he'll make you laugh. But I'm just saying, like, there's guys like him which are really good. You watch that guy's stuff, and there's another guy, Flight Debrief, I think it is. I like watching his. And I can't remember the name. There's a guy that's somewhere in Europe that does it too. I think he's from Europe, I'm pretty sure. He does it too. And those guys are really good, right? But
Yeah.
there is a lot of crap in there. There's some other guys, I can't think of their names that bug me right now, but there's a couple that annoy me. They're literally just on there for the pure entertainment value. They throw out a bunch of crap. They'll even mock some of the other stuff. And it's like you watch these guys to get answers really quick. And I mean, it's entertainment if you want it to be entertainment, but there's a few that are good. Overall, though, the point is, if you don't want to watch it, don't. If I'm willing to put a YouTube video on and watch it, I'm not going to watch the entire video and then go, oh, well, these guys shouldn't be doing this. I'm watching it because it's interesting. I like to get all these different points of what I'm seeing on there. And some people do have some really good points that they bring up, but there is trash. You just got to be able to weed through it. Like, so you asked me the question, what do you like watching? Who do you like watching and who,
Oh, so
makes it good to watch?
for me, so I'm still very new into that. I like Captain Steve. Captain Steve is pretty cool. He's actually just about to retire too from actual flying. I find his videos pretty insightful, but he's also the only one I've really seen. And I know the gentleman that you've been talking about, you showed me a couple of his videos. I don't disagree. I think his videos offer a lot of information. I like that these people are actual professionals. They actually know what they're talking about. That's great. What I'm alluding to before was there are people, I'm not going to mention names, there are people that we even know. We know a couple of these guys, or at least one of them,
Yeah.
that makes videos on like some, he gets called on to some like third rate TV show and then says, I'm an aviation expert. And we all know that he is not. He works in aviation, right? But he's not an expert. And he claims to be this expert. And then he says information that is quite controversial. And it's like, I don't really believe you. And then, like, I remember him posting about how, taking credit for something that a pilot did. I'm not going to like mention anything, but taking credit for someone else's bravery and saving a plane full of people, he actually took credit for that. And I'm like, that just tells me, okay, some of these people have unbelievable arrogance when it comes to aviation, and they want to be like looked at as, hey, look how much I know. Captain Steve and who's the gentleman that you watched? That guy that we watched,
Juan Brown, Blank O'Leary, it was really good. Yeah,
yeah,
that guy.
Blank O'Leary or Juan Brown. Those guys know what they're talking about, so I respect them. They know what they're talking about. They're not armchair captains. These are people that actually work in the industry, that actually fly planes. They know when they talk, they're not talking bullshit. They're talking real information, and I like that. I like them, and that's my opinion. I think they're great to listen to. And also, being an aviation enthusiast, I want to know the actual information and their opinions. And I think a lot of their stuff they say is opinion too, really
Well,
based
that's the
on
that's the
fact.
thing. Just from me though, the Blank O'Leary, if you watch more of his stuff, the reason why it is boring is because he's not. He's not. I don't think he offers very much opinion at all, other than the only opinion he'll offer. And I don't mean to do a big thing about this, but watch some of his stuff because he only talks about the actual facts. So, like I said, with this whole MD-11 thing, for instance, he's not speculating on what happened. He's saying the alarm went off 37 seconds. So he shows a video, lets you see what it's like. And then he explains a pilot with this, right, is trained to take off like this. But when you lose a second engine, you can't, like, I'm just saying the way he words it is based off of the information he got. And that was the only thing I said
Yeah,
about Captain Steve. I think Captain Steve knows a lot. The only thing I didn't like is I watched as he basically failed completely talking about the Air India, acting like he had already solved it. Like, I'm not being rude. He was like, this is what happened clearly. Like not to like a T, like he didn't say 1000%, but at no point did he talk about both engines failing. Right. So in that first video, and then he found out the rat came on, and then all of a sudden, oh, well, the rat was running. Okay. Ram air turbine, for people who don't know, it's something that comes out when the engines fail or when certain electrical things happen. Because it's not just when both engines fail, I've learned. There's some other reasons on different planes. It just depends on the aircraft type. But yeah, so overall those things are good. But I think a bigger issue that I wanted to mention is the way media treats these things. So
yeah,
when there's a plane crash, media wants to make it into a bigger story. And I think that's another thing that scares people because it's like, okay, an MD-11 just crashed. And now everybody's freaking out. I don't want to fly in an MD-11, but the majority of people don't know that there's like, if there's any more passenger MD-11s out there, they're probably not flying in any, first world countries, at least. And it's like, if they are, I don't think there are. I think it's all cargo. So it's like, oh, our MD-11 safe to fly on it. And they don't even need to turn that into a story now because they're cargo planes. So first of all, don't twist that. But with the 737 MAX, right? The whole 737 MAX, yes, there's some weird stuff that happened there, but sometimes you really got to say, okay, well, they're like, well, the FAA didn't do their job in making sure Boeing made a good airplane. It's like, well, how do you know? Like, so because Boeing says we did these tests and everything works and these systems are great and the FAA checks it off, like people seem to think that like the FAA is babying every aircraft being built. No, they're not. They're making sure that aircraft meets standards. And
absolutely.
so the point is they tried to scare everybody in that, oh, well, even the FAA can't make sure planes are safe in this country. And It just freaks people out. Like the 737 Max had its issues. It's got some quality control issues.
Yeah,
Now, that was what I was talking about, the quality, right? Because Boeing has been having some issues with quality because they're outsourcing stuff. And when you outsource stuff anywhere, like I hate to say it, make your stuff, make your products. If you want to make a good product, make them. But there are a lot of quality issues. But with the 737 Max, the story just got twisted so much because something that I don't think a lot of people were aware about either is that there was a way to keep those 737 Maxes from crashing, but it was a
there was.
shortcut,
Yeah,
right? So basically my understanding, just to make it really simple, is the plane didn't just crash itself, everybody, right? The plane didn't just go, I'm just going to kill everybody. But there was a system, and Boeing had sold the aircraft as being, this is all you need for your pilots to fly a Max. And apparently, the packages were not 100% shared to all the airlines, or there was a misunderstanding because I think I had heard
absolutely.
something about a language, like just basically the manuals. But the point was, there was a way to keep the aircraft from crashing if it had that issue. And the pilots were having that issue in North America. There was already a couple reports of the pilots having to override that system. And unfortunately, on the other side of the world where the accidents had happened, they apparently did not have the understanding of how to fix that. So
That's right. Yeah.
the sad thing is that Boeing knew there was an issue and they had a fail safe, but I think what they wanted to do is make the fail safe not have to happen. So there should be no reason why a pilot would have to override the system. But my point is, okay, there were two accidents in a short span because the planes were just delivered, by the way. So it's not even like you could say, oh, well, they had time to fix it and they didn't. So it must be a bad aircraft. It must be bad everything. No, what what happened is you have two planes within a short time, and it just happened to be really bad luck because I think that issue happened often, and some pilots were trained on it, and unfortunately, some weren't. But the point
I agree.
is, the
100%.
media tried to scare the crap, the shit, whatever term you want to use. I just love saying shit, such a great word, out of
Hmm.
people by being like, bad quality products from Boeing. The FAA doesn't know how to certify airplanes safely anymore. And it's like, no, they're just making a story out of it. You know,
Yeah.
you
Well,
hear
there
more about an
was
issue with the Boeing.
some shadiness. There was some
There
shadiness
was,
from
there
Boeing.
was.
Yeah. Boeing wasn't exactly forthcoming in all of this, but it's all been resolved now. That we can agree on. It's all been resolved now. The aircraft, like the FAA,
Well, I
grounded the
wouldn't say
aircraft for
it's
a
all been
while.
resolved, but I don't think it's all been resolved. But I think enough of it has that I would probably fly on a Max now, even, which is, I said I would never fly on a Max myself when they came out because I don't
Yeah.
like the concept of an aircraft being able to take control of itself. But
Yeah, no, that's the thing. But if proper training is given, they can reestablish control of the airplane, and that's really what it came down to. So yes, there was defective parts. Maybe Boeing turned a blind eye to it. I don't know all the particulars of that, but I think
well,
pilots now are absolutely aware of it, and Boeing has definitely rectified the issue. Because here's the thing: if you're Boeing, if you lose another 737 to this, you're done. You're done. There's no more Boeing. No one would like that company would just crash overnight.
uh,
So they would have had to get this right.
I
That's
think
my
it
opinion.
would, but I've learned something big recently, which is like anything else, there is a demand expectation though too. I don't think they will crash because if Boeing crashed, it would be huge to the entire aviation industry. Like that's something that I didn't really understand as much until now. Is Airbus can't just make every plane to make up for all the Boeings, right? Because that's another thing people don't understand is that anytime there are these delays, that's why you've got some older aircraft flying. Like there's planes coming out of the desert, which I think are great aircraft. I would still fly on them, but they have planes coming out of the desert because they're not getting planes delivered. They need planes
Yes,
delivered,
and
and if
further
Boeing
to
shut
your point,
down,
yeah, yeah,
you're not going to have replacement airliners
I agree.
because
I
they take
agree.
so long. So
And
I don't
further
think
to your
Boeing would
point,
crash.
Lufthansa is still flying the 747 for that exact reason.
Yeah, there's a lot of airlines. They're not the only one. I don't think Delta wants any more 757, and they're still operating them. And I'm assuming that's also from Airbus not getting all the planes to them yet. Like they're still waiting
Yeah.
for their airplanes, but not that's not a delay. I don't think. I'm just saying, just in general, it takes time. Like I saw a thing today saying FedEx wanted to keep the MD-11 up until 2032 because they don't have replacement planes yet. So,
Wow.
but I don't know. I just actually looked. I forgot. I was going to tell you. I went to Flight Radar. There are no MD-11s flying.
Wow,
So
really?
they
So they
did ground
actually
them all.
did
Yeah.
ground them.
I did a search for MD-11 in the filter here, and there was only one on the ground that was in a parking spot. So I'm assuming they just were doing a test of some sort or something.
Probably an engine run.
So
Wow.
that makes me very that makes me now you see this is where you get into a more interesting thing when you've got
Yeah.
planes being grounded and they have a good idea of what's going on. Like I think they have a really good idea of what's going on.
They probably seen some
That kind of
stress
tells me
fractures.
well that kind of tells me that maybe it's not going to end up being a maintenance issue unless somebody had to inspect something. But if it did have an engine replacement, you know, I don't know. To me, I'm just thinking it seems like something might be something
We
more in
could
this
be
case if they're
seeing,
grounding it.
yeah, we could be seeing the death of the MDL.
Yeah, it could be. They may not
It
fly
could.
anymore.
That's crazy.
And now here's the thing. I know that airlines don't want them anymore, but I mean, I don't know how you get rid. Like that's the thing though is I don't know how you can just say bye to them right now, right? Like I don't know how you
Yeah.
do that.
Well, I think you'd have to do it. We might see some more aircraft out of the desert resurrected, like
Oh,
767.
definitely. Yeah, quite
Um,
possibly. Yeah.
there are 777s that are parked in the desert. You might see them come back to life. So,
Yeah.
to fill in the void, at least for the interim. Yeah.
Yeah. There's
Anyway,
some of those other world country planes there that also do services too. So
that's true. That's true.
oh, maybe some 727s will come back. Oh, how cool would that be?
Maybe wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
Heck,
Yeah. Well,
even the
there's
Ultra
still a
11, my
couple that
favorite
fly. There
airplane.
are still a couple that fly.
Yeah,
There's
South
still a
America
couple in the
still has
States.
them.
No, in the States. They
In the
might even be
States, oh,
operating.
well,
They might be operating today. USA Jet, I believe,
well,
still operates them.
I am a big fan of these old airliners still flying. So if people
Oh,
are,
me
if you're
too.
listening and you fly a 727, keep it going. If you fly any old airliner, keep it going.
Actually, I'm not gonna talk about it, but I'm actually gonna just look at to see if there are replacement aircraft already. Leaving out of the States there. I'm
Hmm,
gonna look.
could be.
Not like I'm not gonna talk about it. We can talk about other stuff, but I am gonna look into
Yeah.
Louisville and see if they've replaced
I'm sure
anything.
they're using ad hoc charters or whatever to
Well,
fill
that's
in the
what I mean.
void.
It'd be interesting to see what they got going on there.
We are at time, unfortunately.
Oh, we're past time. We're
Uh,
at like 67
yeah,
minutes.
67
Uh oh.
minutes. Wow. Anyway, it's been a fun topic. Aviation safety is something that I know I've been approached with from the people that don't work in the industry. I try my best to explain to them how safe aviation is. But you know what? People are still going to have their opinions at the end of the day. For those of you listening, I still think it's a very safe product that we have out there.
I wouldn't
What
even say
happened in
think. I would say I know it's safe.
It's definitely safe. Absolutely. What happened with UPS was, like I say, it's tragic. But again, think of it like a bunch of slices of Swiss cheese. A lot of things have to line up for an accident to happen. And you should absolutely feel confident when you fly every time because the chances of something happening are astronomical. Astronomical. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, no, I agree. You're better to fly if you can. I think the bigger thing you got to worry about is just your friends at customs and delays and other stuff like that, and how much it costs to fly these days. But
Yes.
that's a
And
different
the
story.
over baggage fees, all the stupid fees that airlines put on you these days. Those are the things you should worry about. Don't worry about the safety of the airplane. You're in good hands.
Well, maybe that's why people worry about the safety of the plane because they don't want to say they're cheap. Who knows? All right. Well, great chat. And yeah, hopefully everybody likes this. I would like to get this one on YouTube as well, but we'll see if it ends up there or not. But I will get an email set up. I forgot to do that this time. But for now, yeah. And hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening if you made it this far. And if you didn't make it this far, I guess you didn't know that we were thanking you for listening. And yeah, fly safe when you go next time.